If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family and podcast. We've got a great podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our friends here at VSiN, Dan Leach. He does an amazing job and one of just 2 people not named Greg Peterson to ever fill in on the Greg Peterson experience on VSiN. He covers a little bit of everything. Golf, the ponies, baseball, football, you name it, he does it. And we're going to be talking with him about what he's made out of the Detroit Tigers being able to play some relatively respectable baseball this far this season, some of the trends that he's been finding in Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about a little bit of the divide that we're finding in the National League and the American League. And I know that he's got a few plays for Tuesday that he's going to be doling out in segment number 2. So we're going to have a great chat with the very entertaining and very energetic Dan Leach. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Tuesday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @unit_D1. Keep in mind letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire on whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did get a question as to just regression. Do I ever bet against just what we're seeing in terms of the market with regards to regression? Do I put it in my handicap? Because we take a look at this time of year, a lot of these starters, they've now made 10 starts, and you'll notice some of these starters, they've got like a fielding independent of 5 and an ERA of 3, and you think, man, this is not necessarily sustainable, like I did it yesterday with Michael Kopech of the Chicago White Sox, fading him with the LA Angels, and it is priced in with regards to my personal handicap. It's not a case where I'll just intentionally go against someone in the market, because every team has a buy point, every team has a sell point, and even if you do think that regression is going to be coming for a team, it's going to be coming for a player, because every single game is its own living, breathing entity, you might still be backing that team for a little bit longer, because it's a whole heck of a lot easier for regression to come for a pitcher if they're facing off against, the Atlanta Braves rather than the Oakland A's. I think that they're much more likely to get lit up by the Braves rather than our good friends, the Oakland AAA. So it's all on a game-by-game basis. I always set my handicap before any lines are out. So I don't know if I'm going against the market or not, because sometimes I think I'm pricing in regression. I think, oh man, I'm going to be fading this guy moving forward, and the market's even lower on him. So there's that aspect of it as well. I always think that it's all about just being able to get the handicap correct, and that's the most important thing to me. So hopefully that does answer your question. Now let's take a look at everything that we got in Major League Baseball on Memorial Day. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
First things first, hopefully you took Memorial Day to be able to spend it with some family, maybe a nice barbecue. Hopefully you were able to remember why we have Memorial Day as well, all the sacrifice of all those that allow us to enjoy the freedoms that we do have, and hopefully you made the most out of it, as the Cleveland Guardians, they made the most out of their opportunity against the Baltimore Orioles, 5-0. They were able to get the W. Logan Allen was tremendous in this one. 10 strikeouts, 7 scoreless innings, Aniel Los Santos, Trevor Stephen, they both supply a scoreless inning. As for Baltimore, Tyler Wells, it's not like he didn't pitch Wells, as he pitched very well. He gave up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Problem is the offense did nothing for him. Ciano Perez gives up 4 runs, 2 of which were earned in a third of an inning. Michael Givens, Keegan Aiken, they both supply a scoreless inning, and then Mike Bauman, pair of outs out of the bullpen, so they got shut out, and there were a lot of teams that got shut out on Memorial Day, including the Tampa Bay Rays, a top 3 team in the league in terms of runs scored per game entering into this one, held to just 1 hit, 1-0. Cubs get it done. Marcus Stroman, a complete game. He gives up 1 hit, 1 walk. That was it. And for the Chicago Cubs, their lone run came off of a Mike Dockman sacrifice fly, as Josh Bradley did a really good job in this one as well. 5 2/3 innings, 8 strikeouts, and his one run was an unearned run. Taylor Walls had a error out there in the field that prolonged his inning. From there, you had 2 scoreless innings out of a new guy in Joe De Sousa, as that was his MLB debut. He was able to do a solid job there, and then you saw Trevor Kelly come in. He was able to get an out of the bullpen as well. The Detroit Tigers, they were shut out by the Walker Texas Rangers 5-0. Nathan Eovaldi just continues to be awesome for the Rangers. He did have his pitch count jacked up a little bit, so only was able to complete 5 innings, but he gave up nothing in those 5 innings. From there, Brock Burke, Jose Leclerc, both under scoreless innings. Jonathan Hernandez, 2 scoreless innings, and Corey Seager went deep. 5th home run season off of Matthew Boyd, who he had a relatively solid start going until the 5th inning, and then things went downward from there. Gives up 5 runs over the course of 6 innings. Mason Engler, 2 scoreless innings. Tyler Alexander, scoreless inning as well, but can't win if you can't score. And for the Detroit Tigers, that was rough for them, as the Rangers have actually been a really good over team thus far this season, as well as for the Walker Texas Rangers. This was a rare occurrence for them. They have currently played 30 overs, 21 unders, and 2 pushes thus far this season. As the Rays, they were the number 1 overall team in terms of overs thus far this season as well, entering into yesterday, so that was a little bit rough for them as well. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they were able to take it to the Colorado Rockies by a count of 7-5, as Carl with a K Kaufman, he's got 1 K in the name of Carl, and, well, he got 1 strikeout and gave up 7 runs, all of which were earned over the course of 4 innings. So, very fitting, as Lourdes Gurriel, 9th home run season, Pavin Smith, his 5th. From there, the bullpen did their part, as you had Brian Hanlon, a scoreless inning, 3 scoreless out of Matt Cazarsidi, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Ryan Nelson, not necessarily the world's greatest start, giving up 5 runs over the course of 5 innings, but bullpen did their part from there. Dre Jemison, 3 2/3 innings scoreless, and Andrew Chafin got the final out of the bullpen to close this one out. As for Colorado, you did have Ryan McMahon get a home run, his 8th home run season. As for Ryan McMahon, he actually got a triple and a home run in this one, as well as he was a double shy of the cycle. So he did his part, the rest of the team did not. The Minnesota Twins were able to get an extra inning win over the Houston Astros, 7-5, the final for Minnesota. They had Sonny Gray give up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. He's still the only qualifying pitcher that has yet to give up a home run, by the way, in 6 innings. From there, Brock Stewart, he had not given up an earned run out of the bullpen all season long. Gave up 2 runs as he allowed a home run in his inning of work. Jose Altuve, 2nd home run season, but from there you did have Jorge Lopez line to scoreless inning, and Yohan Duran, 2 scoreless. As for the Twins, pair of home runs powered them to victory, as Ryan Jeffers in the 10th inning went deep off of Brian Abreu, 3rd home run season. And welcome back to one of the top prospects in baseball, Royce Lewis. 1st home run season, fresh off the injured list. That one comes off of J.P. France, who allowed 4 runs over the course of 6 innings. Seth Martinez, Hector Neris, from there both on to scoreless inning, and then Ryan Presley. He had a chance to be able to close it out, was unable to do so, as Mr. Lewis, he was able to come up with an RBI single in the 9th inning, as Presley gives up a run in an inning, and then Brian Abreu, he gives up those 2 runs in the 10th inning. That proved to be very, very costly. So the Minnesota Twins, 28-26, and right now they're on pace with dead last Toronto Blue Jays in terms of similarities in terms of record. What we are seeing is also the rise up of the San Francisco Giants, 14-4. They take down the Pittsburgh Pirates, as the Pirates, they are below 500 for the first time all season long. 4 runs or fewer for this bunch in 20 out of their last 24 games. Jack Swaniski is the main form of offense. 2 home runs for him. Home runs number 10 and 11 of the season. First one comes off of Anthony DeSclafani, who gave up 3 runs over the course of 7 innings, and then the other comes off of Brett Wisely, who is a position player just filling innings for the San Francisco Giants because they were up by so many runs. Gives up that home run over the course of his inning of work, and then you did have a scoreless inning as well from Taylor Rogers for the Giants. They were able to get some power going, as well as it was a pair of guys that have not seen a lot of action this season, as Austin Slater was able to go deep. That was home run number 1 of the season, fresh off the injured list, and then home run number 2 for Patrick Bailey for him, as well as for Bailey, he goes deep off of Cody Bolton, and he was not bolting it down, as he gave up 8 runs and he got 1 out. He now has an ERA of a 15.63, and the other home run that comes off of Rich Hill, the oldest active starter in the big leagues. He gives up 6 runs over the course of 6 innings. Rob Zanowski, he was able to get a pair of outs out of the bullpen. And Chris Owings, yes, he is still in the league. He was a position player pitching in this one, and he was able to lend a scoreless inning. So that was not so terrific for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then since the Greg Peterson experience is from midnight to 3 Eastern, do have to do this before we've got a few games that are all final, but looks like the Oakland A's might actually win a game. Very strange to say, but they're up 4-1 in the 8th inning on the Atlanta Braves as Mike Soroka makes his first start since 2020, and he got lit up in the 5th inning of this one as he was hurt by some errors, and then Ryan Noda took him deep. 6th home run of the season for him. You had Paul Blackburn make his first start in quite a while, gives up 1 run in 4 innings, and by the way, apparently the Atlanta Braves did not get to Oakland until like 3 a.m. local time, so that did not help them out. Currently, you've got Shintaro Fujinami trying to hold down the fort as Lucas Earsedge. He was able to end 3 scoreless innings for Oakland as well, so we shall see what happens there. DK Nation right-up pick started out in tremendous shape, up 4-0 with the LA Angels getting to Michael Kopech early and often. Kopech gives up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings, including a pair of homers. Brandon Drury, 9th home run of the season. Matt Thayes, his 3rd. Griffin Canning, he was able to go 6 innings, gave up 3 runs with a pair of homers. For the White Sox, Andrew Vaughn, 7th home run of the season. Then home run number 2 for Rami Gonzalez, 2nd home run in his last 2 games. So we shall see if that one's able to hold on. And the Yankees up 1-0 very early on in Seattle, and the Washington Nationals up by a count of 1-0 very early on with the LA Dodgers. So we're going to clean those up on the podcast tomorrow, but taking a look at baseball and what we've all gotten here in the last 7 days, and it's been good to underdogs. 51-44 straight up. Our favorites, that's 53.7%, and 18 of these teams won by approximately 1 run, did not cover the run line. Meanwhile, in this time span, the last 7 days, 47 overs to 46 unders. I believe we've had like 3 pushes thrown in there as well. So very even Stevens with regards to totals. And we've been finding that all season long, including in the last 30 days. As last 30 days, 193 overs, 193 unders. I believe that we've had like 12 pushes thrown in there as well. And favorites in this time span of the last 30 days, just 212 and 185 straight up. On the run line, 72 of these favorites were unable to cover that as well. And if you're looking at the entirety of the MLB season, favorites honestly have done okay on the money line, 466 and 339. But now we've had 126 favorites be unable to cover that run line, and we've had 391 overs to 387 unders. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Monday. Now let's turn it forward to Tuesday, and let's take a look at the lay of the land in Major League Baseball with one of our good friends as we welcome on Dan Leach. He does amazing work here at the network. He is based out there in the great state of Michigan. Going to be asking about sort of the divide that we're seeing in the American League and the National League, his Detroit Tigers, and a few games for Tuesday. That's up next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units return, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their MBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always great to be joined by this man as Dan Leach. He does absolutely amazing work here at VSiN. I know that you're able to catch him quite a bit on the weekends as he does a tremendous job taking a look at a little bit of everything. You want anything from football to basketball to golf. I know that he does some soccer. You're able to go down the list. This guy does it all. I know that he's over there with WHMI as well, doing a great job with his game of the week. You're able to catch him in so many different platforms, including right here at the network. And you're able to follow Dan on Twitter at Dan Leach and then the letters DTM all together. And Dan, always great to have you aboard. Thank you.
What an intro, GP. And listen, you got to be versatile these days. So I love all sports, but as you mentioned, there's not much that I won't throw out there or have had success, making selections on. Baseball, listen, unfortunately, after the NBA Finals, which is going to be here really soon, and obviously the Stanley Cup Finals, all we're going to have is baseball till football, aside from golf and horse racing and all that other stuff. But baseball is a great way to make some money too. If, as you've talked about many times, you just got to be disciplined. You got to look for good value and not try to lay too many big money lines during the summer.
Absolutely. And I'll give a little bit of shout out to the WNBA as well, as I know that has been rising in popularity. And
sure,
product, in my opinion, has been getting better and better. But the baseball product, I feel like, has been very good this year as well. And what have been some of your takeaways? Because now we're just past Memorial Day, and I do think that Memorial Day, one of those good checkpoints when it comes to the MLB season. Now when we see these division leaders no longer so like, well, they got really lucky with like a few series against really bad teams, things like that. But have there been any teams, any just general takeaways in general that you've had thus far this season?
There's three right off the bat, and I'll stay in the American League first. And listen, not that people thought when the Rays had that crazy start they weren't good. We talked about it when I was on recently with you as well. The Rays are obviously ridiculously good. They have a plus 119 run differential, which is absurd for this early in the year. I know the team I'm going to get to in a second is an even bigger one. But, the Rays have been really impressive. That's a crazy American League East with the Orioles and the Yankees, even the Red Sox, 3 over 500. They're 9.5 back right now, 3 over 500. Around Memorial Day weekend is nuts. The Blue Jays, who are one of my World Series picks, and I was lucky to get them at 15-1 recently because, they were much lower earlier in the year. They're in last place, and they're 2 over 500, so you're probably looking at the best division of baseball. And obviously the other team I was alluding to was that Texas Rangers team, second best record in baseball, 34-19, going into Memorial Day, plus 128 run differential. The Dodgers, who lead the NL West, are plus 50, almost 3 times the run differential. So the Rangers are showing through, 55, 54 or so games, that they are obviously ridiculously good. So those are standing out to me. And then also the Yankees, who I was lucky to get a futures on recently. It was low. It was higher than I thought it should have been. It was like 15 or 16-1. Now it's back down to around 10 or 11. I used a profit boost, so got it to 22-1. It's a team that's 9 over 500, 7-3 in their last 10. They've got a decent run differential, but the Yankees are going to be a team that will be in the end, I believe, and have a great chance if they can get out of the AL East, get to the wild card, and go from there. So I look at those, 3 teams in the American League, and obviously the Rays and Rangers have been something that have been really, really interesting to watch so far. I did not think the Rangers would have the kind of team they've had so far, but they're pitching well. Their defense is, in the top echelon of baseball. They have a pretty good away record. Not that, it's very, very tough for good teams to win on the road, but it's something you got to do. I remember my Detroit Tigers for years. They would have issues on the road and they'd be great at home. And then the Rays are not showing any signs of slowing down, 22 over 500 and, easily the best record in baseball right now. So I stuck with the American League there. I don't want to not give any love to the National League with teams like the Braves that I really like. And obviously that NL West with the Dodgers and D-backs and Giants kind of all bunched up. But really the American League, those teams have really impressed me so far, Greg.
And I do think that that's interesting to look at. As joining me on the show, we've got Dan Leach. He does amazing work here at the network. And Dan, I just feel like the American League is a little bit of a cut above the National League as of right now. Certainly, we've been seeing some teams for the National League. Still be some. With the LA Dodgers, that this team time and time again, they're going to be able to put out a good team. And the Arizona Diamondbacks, they've been a team that's really been catching my eye. But I just take a look at those teams in the American League that you laid out. The Texas Rangers, the Tampa Bay Rays, the New York Yankees. You go down the list, and it just feels like overall the American League is pretty stacked in comparison to the National League, especially with the NL Central. Well, not doing too many favors for the National League.
Sure. GP, you could make the case, and listen, we're not even halfway through the season, so let's not get crazy. But you could make the case right now, and I don't think that many people would disagree with you. The best 5 teams in baseball are all in the American League. The Rays, the Rangers, the Orioles, the Astros, the Yankees, teams like that. I mean, obviously, you don't forget about the Braves or the Dodgers. They're up there, and they've got good records. But you can make a case that at least 3 or 4 of the top, 5 teams in baseball right now are out of the American League. What they've been able to do, as I mentioned, run differential, what they're doing pitching-wise, defensive metrics, hitting metrics, hitting home runs. So I think that's something that is really interesting because for a long time, in my opinion, the National League, let's say over the last decade, much better overall when you look at the quality top to bottom and definitely the quality at the top. And you had teams like the Dodgers, obviously, for a long time, and the Giants and other teams that have been really, really good in the National League. But now it looks like the power and the top echelon teams, the majority of them, are in the American League, and that's kind of a shift. And I think you look at, what these teams will be able to do throughout the rest of the season and hopefully, go on World Series type runs, where I would say if you had a choice right now to bet on the American League or the National League winning the World Series, I would definitely take the American League.
Yep, I'm in total agreement with you there. I've been very impressed by the American League, and it's very interesting that we've got more and more interleague games this year than ever before with the schedule shift. And you were talking about the Tampa Bay Rays, and we did see the Rays get shut out on Monday. And I don't think that necessarily the amount of home runs that they've gotten in the early part of the season is sustainable. But now on Tuesday, they are going to be having Shane McClanahan on the mound, and they get to go up against the professor and Kyle Hendricks, who, I think that he's teaching how to give up runs at this point. It's been not so great for him in recent years, but what do you make out of this game? Because as of right now, we don't know the total of Wrigley Field. It's just always a case where the wind is going to be deciding that, but we've got the Tampa Bay Rays once again as big favorites, and even though I do think that there's going to be a little bit of regression for this Rays offense, I don't necessarily think that it's going to be coming off of Professor Kyle Hendricks.
Well, yeah, listen, I'll tell you this. Baseball's 162 games. Obviously, we love baseball, but it's not like betting football. It's not like looking at even basketball or hockey where there's half the games. You have a lot of times where teams that are as good as the Rays might lose to bad teams. Not that the Cubs are one of the worst teams in baseball, but they're not that good. And, when you look at this pitching matchup for the game on Tuesday night, you mentioned McClanahan, 8-0, 1.97 ERA, right obviously in the thick of the Cy Young race so far through the season. And you mentioned the professor, Hendricks, 0-1 with a 6.23 ERA. I mentioned you don't want to lay a lot of big run money lines in baseball, but I love the run line in this game. I'm not saying it's a huge, huge play. And you mentioned the weather. I'm in Detroit, so obviously we get Chicago's weather the next day. And the next couple of days are going to be steamy. Mid-80s, obviously they're near the lake there, so it can be a little more humid. I think the balls will be jumping, so, you might want to look at a total play. I don't think the total's necessarily out yet, but as you mentioned, obviously wind can be a factor in Wrigley. You got to see how it's coming in or coming out. I actually covered the Cubs for a summer at Wrigley and was just solely betting overs or unders based on how the wind was blowing, and it was successful back about 10 years ago. But I like the run line. You lay the 1.5. It's going to be close to even money. After the Rays had the issues, mentioned the shutout, they're going to come back and probably have a pretty good week. And the Cubs are on a team that really scares me offensively. So I think if the Rays win this game, they're going to win this game by 4, 5, 6 runs. And McClanahan can hold the Cubs to 0. So that's the play on that game. Not a huge play, but I do like Tampa Bay minus 1.5 on the run line. I would definitely not lay the 190, that's for sure. Not because I don't believe that the Rays are going to win, just because there's no value in laying 190 in late May in Major League Baseball. In that situation, I would definitely use the value of the run line if the Rays win this game big.
And I agree with you mostly in that typically you don't want to be laying a bunch of big money lines. You don't want to be laying a lot of juice in general in baseball. But allow me to throw this to you. How do you currently evaluate the Oakland A's, who entered into Monday night 10-45? Because I'm with you. Most of the time, I'm not willing to lay big money lines, or in this case, honestly, big run lines. But I feel like the baseball betting gods have given us a gift because you fade the Oakland A's in any way, shape, or form at this point, and it's been so profitable that it's not even funny. And I feel like the Oakland A's are one of those main exception teams that their suckitude just cannot be quantified enough, because if you got plus $4 on the money line in every single one of their games entering into Monday night, you'd still be down 5 units betting on this Oakland A's team because they've been so stinking bad this year.
You ask me what I think about the A's. I think they're awesome. Awesome to bet against. This is one of the worst teams in the history of baseball. It's too bad my great friend John Goochdown out there in the Bay Area, huge A's fan, obviously very upset they're probably going to Vegas. They are god-awful. I mentioned the great run differentials for the Rangers in the AL West and the A's division, and obviously the Rays, the plus 119 for the Rays and the plus 128 for the Rangers. The A's are minus 199. It's May 29th, May 30th. That's ridiculous. Most teams don't even come close to that in a season, yet they are there not even halfway through. You don't want to get too crazy betting against a team. The A's are not going to win a lot of games, but they will win some. So if you're making big bets and, laying 240, 280, whatever, and obviously the run line, as I mentioned with the Rays bet against the Cubs that I like tomorrow, is a better situation. But even run line bets with the A's sometimes can be minus 1.5, minus 200, minus 180. And obviously a lot of baseball games do end in one runs. But I'll tell you this, there is nothing wrong at this point with fading the A's in every way, shape, or form. I wouldn't throw them in a ton of parlays because there's going to be times where obviously they're going to win some games. They've won 10, which is awful, 10-45. But it is a gift, Greg. This is a team where they've obviously completely given up. They haven't spent any money. They're 5-23 at home. They're 5-22 on the road. I mentioned the absurd run differential. They've lost 11 in a row. And like you said, this is the kind of team where you don't want to get too crazy because they're going to win some games. but you can keep going back to the well against them, especially when they're playing a team like Houston that they've done recently, or playing good teams in their interleague games. They're going to beat some teams here and there. If they play a team like Kansas City or they play a team like the Washington Nationals that are not great teams, that obviously are not really, doing anything in Major League Baseball overall to put the, fear in the hearts of anybody, they're going to lose most of their games. And why not take the gift as much as you can when it makes sense? Maybe if there's some people out there that like betting parlays, you throw them in a 2 or 3 leg parlay, because obviously you don't want to, lay 240 on its own. But there's going to be nights where I've ripped on the A's, haven't minded laying the 240 or the 250 or the 220, even, for the A's at home against a team like Houston, etc. It really is crazy. I don't think we've really ever seen – we've seen some bad teams, Greg. I don't think we've ever seen a team this bad this long into a season, but also this early into a season with that bad of a run differential and that bad of a record.
Nah, this is the worst baseball team I've ever seen in my life. And you suffered through some bad years with the Detroit Tigers in the early 2000s. Back in that day, the Milwaukee Brewers, my team, they were absolutely terrible. I still remember when Jose Hernandez was going for the strikeout record, and that was one of the biggest things for the Milwaukee Brewers. At no point were they were anywhere near this sorry. So I'm with you there. As we do have joining me on the show, Dan Leach. He does amazing work at VSiN out there in the great state of Michigan, and also out there in the great state of Michigan, that'd be the Detroit Tigers. And for the Tigers, ever since the Javi Baez incident that got him benched, his team has been above 500. They're not necessarily a team that is impressive with their starting pitching, aside from Eduardo Rodriguez. I'll give him a little bit of credit. They're not necessarily a team that's lighting the world on fire with their offense, but at the same time, they just continue to find a way to be able to pull out games. I don't think I'm going to be able to get there with them on a Tuesday against the Texas Rangers, right around plus 118 to plus 125 with Alex Faedo on the mound. But what have you been making out of this Detroit Tigers team? Because with the Tigers, it's been interesting to take a look at them thus far this season, because they just feel like they're that scrappy team that they continue to pull out these one-run games.
Well, listen, I told you, if you don't say Detroit, people in my hometown are going to get mad at you. And so, you got to say Detroit, not Detroit. And I'll get you some Coney Island. We got Coney hot dogs here for you. Greg, it's fascinating. This is a team that people are starting to get a little too high on here. And that's fine. It's baseball. Obviously, we had the doldrums, over the last several years. And Gardner kind of took over the team after Brad Ausmus was fired. And they just could not get, that World Series with Jim Leland. They're not spending a ton of money on Cabrera's career, but people love baseball here. It's, one of the original baseball towns. It's been an honor and privilege growing up here, being a fan of the team, covering the team, doing their pre and post game in many different situations. The Tigers are beloved here. I don't want to say they're doing it with smoke and mirrors. As you mentioned, Rodriguez has been great, and they've obviously gotten some solid offense at times. For a while, they had the best bullpen numbers in baseball earlier in the season, but they have a minus 53 run differential. That being said, they had a chance on Monday, on Memorial Day, when they got shut out by the Rangers 5-0, to be 500. And they haven't been 500 this late in the season since 2017. They're 2 games out of first in a very wacky and kind of weaker than I expected AL Central. You think the Tigers have a chance in the division? Probably not. You think the Tigers have a chance to keep it interesting for a while? Definitely. And when you look at the AL Central, it seems like the Guardians not playing great. White Sox 11 under 500. Royals, one of the worst teams in baseball. And you look at what the Tigers do have, Greg, and they got a guy like Riley Green. They got a guy like Jake Rogers who can bank some home runs, has won some games with walk-offs. You mentioned the Javi Baez situation. Well, he was benched and having all these defensive issues, and he's really kind of come to fruition. He's leading the team in RBI, 26. He's got a few dingers. As I mentioned, Rodriguez, and you mentioned it too, has been, all-star worthy so far this year. And the bullpen has been good. So they are staying in games. They're scoring a lot of runs. You're getting good production offensively at times from guys like Torkelson, who's got 4 bombs on the year. Green's got 5 so far. Matt Vierling has had some nice moments kind of out of nowhere as, less at bats than some of these other guys, but he's got 4 home runs and has driven in, a bunch of runs. I think it's going to be fun to watch the Tigers if you're a Detroit fan, but I'm starting to hear from a lot of my, friends and people, fellow colleagues in the media, that they're hearing as well that a lot of people believe this team can make a run this year. I got to back up on that. I mean, Scott Harris, the new GM that came from San Fran, taking over for Al Avila, who was here way too long and just made some terrible draft picks and moves. He is going to do this the right way, the way the Lions are trying to be built under Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. If they could build this team to a crescendo over the next few years and do this rebuild the right way, like it was supposed to be done in the first place, I think the Tigers could be, a very successful team in the next 2-3 years. This year is about trying to move forward. Obviously, they were much worse last year than people thought they were going to be. This year, I like some of the pieces, but they're still way off on what they're going to need to be a legitimate contender and be a team that could, rival a Tampa Bay Rays type team or the Rangers or the Yankees or the Blue Jays or a bunch of different teams that are playoff worthy to have a chance to go deep and maybe win a World Series. So there's definitely young pieces, but there's a long way to go with the Tigers. At least, though, a team that started off so badly, looked like they were going to be a bottom dweller all year long, they're in the division race right now, almost heading into June. So that's something.
Yep, it certainly is. And this is an American League Central that it's not necessarily that strong, to say the least. The Minnesota Twins, I do believe that they're the best team in the division, but you've got the Kansas City Royals, who they should be feeling very fortunate that the Oakland A's exist, because even though they got the win on Monday, they are now 17-38. It's been a big, giant pile of stink there. For the Cleveland Guardians, the pitching is good, but they have absolutely no offense to speak of whatsoever as well. And the Detroit Tigers, they're just 2 games out of first place right now. I think they're going to fade into the abyss. And then you got the Chicago White Sox that, man, that has been just a pit of sadness thus far this season with the way that they have been so undisciplined. And right now I'm finding them as like a -135 to a -140 favorite from Tuesday. And I just don't understand why these numbers are where they are right now, the White Sox, because fading them has been one of the biggest profit boosts all season long for many bettors.
It has. It's interesting you're getting that number with Giolito, who actually the Tigers just roughed up. Just 3-4 with a 3.98 ERA. Anderson is 2-0 with an almost 5 ERA going for the Angels, but it's in Chicago. I mean, the Angels are not the greatest away team. They're 500. I'm not going to touch that game, but if I'm taking anybody, I'm taking the Angels in that game because I think Giolito's, possibly going to have another bad start there. I will tell you another game that I do like on Tuesday is, the Astros come back, beat the Twins come back, beat the Astros in extras on Memorial Day, and now you've got them at home again against this Twins team. Minnesota's a favorite, -130, because Ryan, who's been incredible, 7-1 with a 2.21 ERAs on the mound. I love the Astros, plus the money here at home is a small play on the Astros as a dog, which is very, very rare. So I like a little revenge for the Astros after losing at home in extra innings on Memorial Day.
And Brandon Belock has been relatively solid for the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
He's able to get some swings and misses. Joe Ryan has been incredible for the Minnesota Twins, but this is one of those classic cases where you got a little bit of a pitching advantage, in my opinion, with regards to the starters for the Minnesota Twins, but the overall team for the Houston Astros, they are better than that of the Minnesota Twins. So I do think that is going to be a fun one for Tuesday. And Dan, you do an amazing job covering so much for us. Whenever you're on VSiN, you never know what we're going to get, but we know that we're going to get something entertaining, whether it's baseball, whether it's golf, whether it's football. The list goes on and on. You do a great job with all of it and so much more. And I know you've got many irons in the fire looking at things nationally and locally out there in the state of Michigan. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Very kind of you to say. It's always a pleasure being on with you as well. By the way, one quick last thing on the Astros. They really lose 2 games in a row, so it's another reason I like them. But yeah, follow me on Twitter, Dan Leach DTM. I got tons of golf stuff I'm doing right now. We got the Belmont in a couple weeks. I'll have horse racing stuff. I got some baseball I'm calling over the summer, some trips to Vegas, hopefully to hang out with you, GP, and then getting really excited for leaning towards football in the fall. I do, as you mentioned, the game of the week on WHMI. We've had a lot of success and a lot of fun doing that for basketball and football. And then we got a lot of Lions stuff to talk about here in Detroit. But I'll always give you a lot of entertainment value because I'm crazy in the best way, of course. So follow me on Twitter, Dan Leach DTM, and I'm excited about the summer. It's finally here in Michigan. It's been in the 50s and 60s until recently. Now it's pool weather. I've gone to the pool the last couple days. So I'm fired up about that. I know in Vegas it's probably 110 right now, but hey, it's the desert. It's a dry heat, Greg.
Yep, it certainly is. And as things are heating up with regards to the weather, Dan Leach is heating up with his picks. He does a great job following a little bit of everything. He laid it out: horse racing, golf, baseball, Lions, you name it. He does it on every single time he joins this podcast. Lots of tremendous insights, much like today. So a big thanks to Dan Leach for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now a part of the VSiN family podcast. And coming in next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Tuesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. Always a pleasure to have Dan Leach aboard. He does a great job over at VSiN. He covers a little bit of everything. Football, baseball, basketball. Heck, you're able to go down the list of golf, soccer. This man does a good job taking a look at everything. I know he does great work at DTM SquatchPicks.club as well. He does a great job with a little bit of everything, and every single time he joins this podcast, lends tremendous insight. So, big thanks to Dan for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at GNet_81. We are going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, easy. So without further ado, let's dive on this first game of 901-902 on the betting board. It is the Slam Diego Padres, and they're going to be hitting the road, and they're going to be facing off against the Miami Marlins, as Sandy Alcantara is going to be on the bump for the Marlins, and Ryan Weathers looks to weathers the storm for San Diego. And between minus 131 and minus 145 is your price on Miami. Between plus 118 and plus 125 is the number on the Padres. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 8. Under is minus 120 and the over is even on the 7.5. Over is minus 115 and the under, that is minus 105. I did set my total at 7.3. I'm going to be looking at the under. Sandy Alcantara has not been himself thus far this year, but it seems like he is running into form and, up pitching in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark for one, and two, going up against the San Diego Padres team that's currently dead last in the big leagues in terms of batting average. I think it is exactly what the doctor ordered for him, because for Sandy Alcantara has been able to right the ship a little bit more. Gives up 2 runs in that last start against the Colorado Rockies on the road. That's a very good sign, though. I will say, 3+ runs surrendered still in 3 out of his last 5 starts. Just has been a little bit of a topsy-turvy year from 4.86 ERA, and his strikeouts are actually up from last year. His walks are slightly up. He's been giving up about 2.8, 2.9 walks per 9 innings. I think the biggest thing is just when he gets that third time through the order, that's when things really seem to be going haywire, because first 2 times through the order, opponents are barely hitting above a 200 off of them. That third and fourth time through the order, opponents are hitting well above a 300 off of them, and that's really the big concern. Sandy Alcantara is good typically for the first 5 or so innings, and then they leave him out there too long, and the reason why they often have to leave him out there a little bit too long is that this is not the world's greatest bullpen, and they do go up against a San Diego Padres team that is actually number 1 in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA. They entered into this series 3.32 with regards to their bullpen ERA. Tom Cosgrove has yet to give up a run for this team. You've had Nick Martinez, ever since he got sent to the bullpen, have a sub-3 ERA. Josh Hader has been terrific. Steven Wilson has been able to give you good innings. Meanwhile, it's a Miami Marlins team that they've been improving. They're 16th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, and if you do take a look at the last 30 days, number 1 in the league is the San Diego Padres in terms of bullpen ERA, and the Miami Marlins are now 9th. They do get JT Chargois back at the fold. Stephen Okert has been solid. They have been dealing with the injury to AJ Puck, but also a little bit of a misnomer with this Miami Marlins team is that they actually put up runs as they're actually dead last in the National League in terms of runs per game. Jorge Soler is a good deodorant to the stink of this offense, as he is the only player currently on the active roster, with Josh Chisholm currently hurt, with more than 7 home runs. He's been able to slug out 17 bombs. This guy has been absolutely incredible, as he has hit a home run, I believe, now in each out of his last 4 games, or 4 out of his last 5. So, this guy has really been able to shell it out. Meanwhile, you've got guys who are able to move the line. Luis Arias obviously being the main of them, still hitting right around at 375 this year. And then you've got Yoli Gurriel, Brian De La Cruz. These guys are in between about a 290 and a 300, but then you get to the bottom of the list. Peyton Butterick, along Gene Segura, whenever he's been out there, someone like a Joey Wendell. These guys hitting 215 or lower have been not great. Meanwhile, for the San Diego Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr., Juan Soto have been just fine. Soto, north of 400 on base. He's been hitting well above a 300 over the last 35 days. You've been able to have Fernando Tatis Jr. ever since he's gotten back to the fold. And right around 250 on base hasn't been great, but you know what? 9 home runs in 33 games. You're going to take that. Xander Bogaerts about a 345 on base overall for the season, but after a hot start, he has really cooled down. As a matter of fact, you take a look at Soto and Bogaerts, they're the only 2 players that have an at-bat this year that are hitting above a 246. It's really not good for the team. Manny Machado is currently hurt. You got the likes of Matt Carpenter, the entire catcher spot, Trent Grisham, Rudy Odor, Jay Cronenworth, all hitting at 215 or lower. So certainly there are some issues when it comes to this offense, and I do think that they are going to be manifesting itself, which is why I did set my total at a 7.3. I'm going to be taking a look at the under, but the reason why I did set the Miami Marlins at a minus 144, still not a lot of faith in Ryan Weathers, who doesn't have the world's worst ERA. It's hovering right around 3.94, and he's backed up by that good bullpen, but his strikeouts per 9 rate is still below 6. He still gives up north of 3.3 walks per 9 innings. It feels like the bottom is about to fall out on him. He's given up 4+ runs in each out of his last 2 starts, doing so against Washington Nationals and the LA Dodgers. I do think that there are going to be issues here for Ryan Weathers, even against a Miami Marlins offense that is relatively top heavy. So this is a spot where I don't want to mess with the run line. I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 143 with the Marlins on the money line, set them at a minus 144, and I'm also going to be taking a look at this total under 903, 904 on the betting board. It is the Philadelphia Phillies, and they hit the road. They're facing off against the New York Metropolitans, as Kodai Senga is going to be going for the Mets, and you've got Ranger Suarez on the bump for the Phillies, and the Phillies are underdogs. You're getting them anywhere between plus 110 to a plus 115, anywhere between minus 122 to a minus 130 is your number. On the Mets, 8.5 is the total. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is anywhere between even a minus 110. I made the Mets a minus 169 favorite. I'm going to be willing to back them, and right now I'm seeing a run line at DraftKings at a plus 155. Seeing other places more around a plus 145. I think I'm just going to bypass the money line, and I'm going to go with the run line. This is a gentleman in Mr. Ranger Suarez who just has not been able to get online this year. He spent the early part of the season on the injured list, was a pitch-to-contact guy to start with last year, and through 11 innings, he's right now giving up 12 earned runs. The strikeout numbers are up a little bit, but that's just because he's facing so many batters per inning because he's given up, 17 hits in 11 innings, that he just continues to get completely tattooed. And for Kodai Senga, I recognize that he has not necessarily faced off against the world's greatest competition. The walks are an issue. He's given up right around 5.8 walks per 9 innings, but this guy's been magic at home. 6.12 road ERA, $1.57 home ERA, and the strikeout numbers are definitely there. 11.5 punch-outs per 9 innings. Opponents are getting $1.60 off of him when he's in New York. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, there has been a little bit of a power outage for this team. Kyle Schwarber has been able to give you 13 home runs, but nobody else on this roster has been able to give you more than 6. You are noticing that Bryce Harper has been able to do a nice job of being able to get on base since he's come off the injured list, but just 3 home runs over the course of 85 at-bats. This is a Phillies team that has been able to do a solid job being able to get on base, as Harper, Bryson Stott, Nick Castellanos all hitting above 290, and then got a glut of guys like JT Realmuto, Brendan Marsh and company that are hitting in that pocket about at 265 to 275. We shall see if Trey Turner is able to get online as well, but you've got your issues there. Now, the good news for the Philadelphia Phillies is that the bullpen has really been able to pick it up. First month of the year, this team was absolutely terrible in the bullpen. Over the last 3 days, they're now 12th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, so you're going to take that. Meanwhile, the New York Mets in the time span has been 24th. You've had David Robertson, who's been able to do a nice job in the bullpen along Drew Smith. Both of these guys have been able to supply a sub-3 ERA. When you get into some of these less than trustworthy guys, though, that could be an issue. Adam Ottavino, Dominic Leone, Tommy Hunter, they've all supplied north of a 4.5 ERA. You've actually gotten Jeff Brigham to be able to give you a couple solid innings, and Brooks Raley coming off the injured list, I do think is big for the Mets. It has been a little bit of a top-heavy offense in that you've got Pete Alonso, who's been amazing. 20 home runs thus far this season, but past that, it has been a little bit hit or miss, but Francisco Alvarez being able to pick it up, I think that is massive for this bunch. Over the last 15 days, he's went deep 5 times, 400 on base, so this has given them a little bit of life, and it's been much needed because you do have quite a few guys. They're in between, we're going to call it about a 223 to 233. Daniel Vogelbach gets on base, but he's hitting about a 225, along with Francisco Lindor, Tommy Pham, Eduardo Escobar starting to pick it up, but he and Mark Hanna, they're all in that fold as well, so that's been a little bit of an issue, but going up against Ranger Suarez, I think, is a good antidote, and even though the Phillies bullpen has pitched a little bit better, this has been a bullpen that has been used quite a bit. You still employed Craig Kimbrell, and that's not good news. Gregory Soto has been absolutely terrible. It's actually been guys like Andrew Vasquez, Connor Brogdon that have been able to supply a sub-3.5 ERA. So I'm going to be willing to trust in the Mets on the run line. I do think that they're going to be able to get to a guy in Ranger Suarez who has yet to complete 5 innings thus far this season. I did set my total at 8.4. I do think that Kodai Senga going to be able to go out there and is going to be able to hold down this Philadelphia Phillies team that makes contact but doesn't necessarily drive in a lot of runs. So taking a look at the under on the 8.5, and I'm going to be taking a look at the run line of the New York Mets. As we go to 9:05, 9:06 on the betting board, it is the Colorado Rockies hit the road face-off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Zach Gallen goes for the Saints, and Kyle Freeland is on the bump for Colorado. It is the total of the over is between -115 to a -120. Unders between even to -105 on Arizona. You'll find them are between -210 to -230, between +185 and +185, the number on Colorado, with that run line price right around -110 to a -115 on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I'm willing to go to a -112 on this run line. I do think that this is going to be a lower scoring game, so I'm going to be taking a look at the under, but I always love being able to back me some Zach Gallen, and I do think that Gallen is going to be able to do a solid job against the Colorado Rockies team that time and time again, they always have those demonstrative home and road splits with regards to their offense. Now, I will give a little bit of credit where credit is due. The Rockies' home and road splits this year aren't quite as bad as they have been in past years. They're generating about 5.3 runs per game at home. Meanwhile, it's more like 3.8 runs per game on the road this season. Last year, that was 3 runs per game on the road, and they were actually averaging more runs per game at home. I mean, it was really, really bad last season. So I do think that things are starting to be a little bit more calm on that front, but I do think that Zach Gallen should be able to go out and completely mow them down. And Kyle Freeland on the flip side, he's actually been relatively solid for this Colorado Rockies team, as he's right now supplying a 3.86 ERA, considering half of your starts are in Coors Field. When you pitch for the Colorado Rockies, that's actually not half bad. For Freeland, he does give up quite a bit of contact in general. His strikeouts per 9 rate, that's hovering right in the neighborhood about 7, but he's only giving up about 2 walks per 9 innings, has allowed 2 runs or fewer, and now 4 out of his last 5 starts got just right against the Texas Rangers, but by and large has been able to do a solid job for Zach Gallen. It's been a little bit more topsy-turvy for him recently, but still, 2 runs or fewer surrendered in 3 out of his last 4 starts, and just has not given up the deep ball. 2 home runs in 66 and 2/3 innings. He's giving up right around 2 walks per 9 innings. He's getting in the pocket about 10.5 to 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. This guy has been absolutely lights out with a 0.77 home ERA, giving up 4 walks out 47 punch-outs in 35 innings in Arizona thus far this season. Now, he is also backed up by a bullpen that has been not great to say the least, as the Arizona Diamondbacks entering into this game, they're hovering right in the neighborhood, about 18th in terms of bullpen ERA for the Colorado Rockies. They're a little bit further down the list. They're more on 23rd, but still, once again, when you play half your games at Coors Field, that's not necessarily too bad, as Brent Suter has been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Brad Hand, along with Daniel Bart, have also been solid in this Colorado Rockies bullpen. It's just been, but when you've had to throw out their Pierce Johnson, that things have not been great there. Meanwhile, for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Miguel Castro, along with Andrew Chafin, they're supplying a sub-3.2 ERA along with Kyle Nelson. It's when you throw out there the schlubs like Jose Ruiz where things really go off the rails. But for the Arizona Diamondbacks, a top 3 team in the National League in terms of home batting averages, you've got a lot of guys that do a good job of just being able to find a way on base. Dominic Fletcher, Gabriel Moreno, Geraldo Perdomo, Lourdes Gurriel, Emmanuel Rivera, all hitting at least a 294 for this bunch, and all but one of these guys, Moreno, providing at least a 349 on base. Not necessarily a lot of boom with this team, but Lourdes Gurriel, Corbin Carroll combined 17 home runs. Carroll, 14 stolen bases, and Christian Walker has been in a little bit of a funk recently. He's been stuck on 11 home runs for quite a while. So in the last 15 days, he's only been able to slug out 2 bombs, but by and large, I do like what he's been able to bring to the table. Flip side for the Colorado Rockies, they're dealing with the injury to CJ Cron. But even though it's been limited at bats, Randall Grichuk has been able to do a good job of moving the line. You've been able to get some good production as well out of Chris Bryant, who's been able to stay healthy thus far this season. Both of these guys have been able to give you north of a 345 on base, and Grichuk is currently hitting at 372. Certainly think that we're going to see a little bit of regression there. And Elias Diaz, for a team that really doesn't hit well on the road as a collective, you've got a Rockies team that's hitting about a 235. He has been incredible. He's been able to give you north of a 275 average on the road, so that has been beneficial. And Mike Moustakas has been able to give you a little bit as well, but I just think that Zach Gallen going to continue his home dominance like we've been seeing all season long. For the Diamondbacks, set them on the money line at a -211, and like I said, I'm willing to lay the -110 run line that I'm seeing with them right now. Really not wanting to go too far further than that, and I'm going to be taking a look at this 8 under as well. 907, 908 on the betting board. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They throw it face off against the San Francisco Giants. You don't mess with the Johan Oviedo. It's going to be going for the Pirates, and for the Giants, it's going to be some form of a bullpen game. So this is a game that's off the board. Got to assume that you're going to be seeing bulk innings from Sean Manaea, and if that is the case with the Giants, set them at a -152 on the money line with a total of 8.7, 8.5 or less. Looking at the over, a 9 or higher to the under. Now, when it comes to the Pittsburgh Pirates, this team has scored 3 runs or fewer in 19 out of their last 25 games, 4 runs or fewer in 21 of those last 25 games. Now, the reason why I did set my total a little bit higher is, for one, even though Sean Manaea has looked a little bit better recently, it has been a rough season for our friend Sean Manaea. Even if you take out the Mexico City bulk appearance last start that he made, even if you take that out of the fold, he is still posting up an ERA that is north of 6 thus far this season, as he has been all over the place. His walks per 9 rate is above 5. He has been able to get right around 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, but it doesn't do a lot of good when you're giving up well over 2 home runs per 9 innings. He has not completed a full 5 innings since the 5th of May, so that has been a big, giant issue for this team. And the San Francisco Giants, they've been able to rise up with their bullpen. They are no longer dead last in the National League in terms of ERA. They're still in the bottom 3, though, in terms of bullpen ERA in the National League. And I will say they are currently 10th over the last 30 days across Major League Baseball in terms of bullpen ERA, with Camilo Duvall, along with Tyler Rogers, being able to supply a sub-3.5 ERA. John Brebbie has looked a little bit better recently. He and Scott Alexander right around a 3.70 to a 4.2 ERA, but not a ton of faith there. But I do think that they are going to be able to get to Johan Oviedo, who's been having a really rough time of it for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, with the San Francisco Giants, they're a team that ranks at the top 5 in the big leagues in terms of home runs, so a lot of these have come on the road, right around 1.6 home runs per game on the road, more like 1.1 to 1.2 home runs per game at home. But for Johan Oviedo, 4.70 ERA overall this season. Not really giving up the deep ball too much, but he's giving up north of 4 walks per 9 innings. He's getting about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings with a 5.04 road ERA, and opponents are getting about a 2.72 off of him on the road. Now, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, bullpen has not been too bad for them, but they got completely roughed up yesterday, so we're seeing that spiral a little bit downward coming into the series. The Pittsburgh Pirates were 7th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Would not be surprised if we continue to see regression with them, as David Bednar, Colin Holderman, both of these guys, a sub-250 ERA, throwing their Yohan Ramirez as well, but Robert Stevenson has been starting to regress. Jose Hernandez has been a little bit up and down as well. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, I do think that their offense is going to be able to return a little bit more to form. You've got Jack Swinitsky, who's now been able to give you 11 home runs, so this guy's actually been on a tear recently, as he's been able to give the team pretty much 4 home runs over the last 4 games, so that's something beneficial. You do have a few guys moving the line for this bunch, as Matt Mathis, along with Brian Reynolds, Topico Maricano. These are guys hitting above a 275, and Andrew McCutchen, he's been able to give you about a 355 on base, 8 home runs thus far this season. But for the San Francisco Giants, you've got 7 different guys that have given you at least 6 home runs thus far this season, as you've got Thairo Estrada, along with Blake Sabel, Mike Yastrzemski, Wilmer Flores, all on 6 home runs this far this season. Michael Conforto, he's been able to slug out 11. And for Michael Conforto and J.D. Davis, they're both giving you about a 350 on base. Lamonte Wade Jr. north of a 400 on base as well. So this offense has really been able to come to the forefront as well. And I do think that for the San Francisco Giants, they are going to be able to get to Yohan Oviedo. I do think that we're going to see a little bit of regression from what has been a good streak for the Giants bullpen recently. And for the San Francisco Giants, this team has really been able to rise up recently, as over the last few weeks they've been one of the top teams in the big leagues. I believe that they're now 11-3 in their last 14 games. So want to lay up to a minus 152 on the Giants money line. If I'm able to get a plus 130 or greater on the run line, would be willing to consider that as well. And then 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher to the under, would need at least a plus 153 to take a shot on the Pittsburgh Pirates. 909-910 on the betting board. It is the LA Dodgers playing against the Washington Nationals. Jake Irvin is going to be going for the Nationals. Tony Gonsolin is on the bump for the Dodgers. Dodgers are $3 favorites, anywhere between minus 282 and minus 305, anywhere between plus 240 and plus 260. Your number on the Washington Nationals. 9 is the total. The under is minus 120 and the over is even. We're starting to get to the point where I'm starting to consider the Washington Nationals. If you're looking at the run line of the LA Dodgers, you're currently finding that at between about a minus 140 to a minus 150. I was willing to go up to a minus 136 on this one, and when it comes to Washington Nationals, I needed at least a plus 260 to take a shot. We have just barely been able to get there, so I'm going to be willing to take that plus 260 here on the Washington Nationals. This is a spot where Tony Gonsolin, I still think that even from last year, he's doing for regression. Opponents on balls in play were hitting sub 200 off of Gonsolin. I do think that there's a little bit of an art to it, but you take a look at Tony Gonsolin, and this guy is way overdue for regression. He has not pitched very well this year. he's given up right around 3.3, 3.4 walks per 9 innings. He is very much a guy that is not going to go out there light the world on fire in terms of strikeouts for his career. 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been able to get 7 punch-outs per 9 thus far this season, and he's got an ERA of a 182 and a fielding independent of a 470. I mean, last year, he had a fielding independent that was more than a point higher than his ERA as well. So, I mean, the regression monster is very, very hungry, and I think that he's coming for our good friend Mr. Gonsolin, who has given up at least 3 runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts. Meanwhile, Jake Irvin, it's not necessarily been so savory for him, as he has given up 14 runs, 12 of which have been earned over the course of his last 3 starts, and now he has to go up against an LA Dodgers team that they're doing a great job of terrorizing pitchers. They came into the series second in the National League in terms of home runs per game. JD Martinez, Mookie Betts, a combined 21 home runs for both of these gentlemen thus far this season. Martinez hitting at 275, 353 on base for Mookie Betts, and I mean, with this Dodgers team, they don't hit for an impressive average. They're hitting at 239 as a collective. That's well below average in the big leagues, but they are the best team in the big leagues in terms of being able to draw walks, as well as you just take a look at these guys, and you've got 6 different players with at least 24 walks this far this season. Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, both of these guys, they do hit for average, hitting above a 310 coming into the series. You've had Freddie Freeman give you north of a 400 on base, 9 home runs. Max Muncy, 208 batting average, but 340 on base, 17 home runs. That is going to fly. Now with the Washington Nationals and the LA Dodgers, both of these teams have very comparable bullpens, and both of these teams have stunk with their bullpen. The Washington Nationals, they are 24th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. The LA Dodgers, they are 25th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. So less than savory on both fronts, and for the LA Dodgers, it's some of these schlubs like Phil Bickford, Yancy Almonte that have really been rough. Shelby Miller has actually been okay in the bullpen. I think we're going to see a little bit of regression there, but Victor Gonzalez, Bersarder Gratterall, Caleb Ferguson, these guys have been able to do a pretty incredible job in this bullpen, all giving you a sub 250 ERA. Meanwhile, for the Washington Nationals, Carl Albert Jr. has done a good job. Hunter RV could be a little bit up and down, but I do like what I've seen there. And for the Washington Nationals, you just have a lot of guys that they find a way to be able to move the line. You've got Victor Robles, along with Rosell Adams, Michael Chavis, who's been seeing a limited amount of at-bats, but he's back to full. Joey Meneses, Lane Thomas, all hitting at least a 285 for the team. Thomas is currently leading the way with 8 home runs, so that's an issue Washington Nationals did last in the National League in terms of overall home runs, but these guys find a way on. They have the fewest strikeouts of any team in the big leagues. I think that this has just gotten a little bit too demonstrative. Being able to get a plus 260 in this spot, I'm going to be willing to take it with the Washington Nationals, and I do think that they're going to be able to make a lot of contact on Tony Gonsolin, and I think they're going to be able to find some holes. I might tell it at 9.2. I'm going to be taking a look at the over, and I'm going to be taking a look at the Washington Nationals on this Bondo number. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers, they play host to the Walker, Texas Rangers, as Martin Perez is going to be going for the Rangers, and Alex Faedo is on the bump for Detroit. Detroit is an underdog of anywhere between plus 118 and plus 125. Meanwhile, between minus 131 and minus 140 is your number on Texas. NF is 2.9 is the total on the 9. Under is minus 125. The over is plus 105 on the NF. Over is minus 120. The under, that is even. I did set my total at 8.9. Really mostly seeing 8.5s out there. On an 8.5, I'm willing to go over, but with the Texas Rangers, I did set them on the money line at a minus 154. If you are taking a look at that run line, you'll find that anywhere between about a plus 115 to a plus 120. Need at least a plus 110 to be able to take a shot, and I am going to be willing to ride with that run line, because with the Texas Rangers, with them being the road team, they are going to be able to get their full allotment of at-bats. For 1 and 2, this is the number 1 offense in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Do I think that there's going to be a tad bit of regression here? Absolutely, but at the same time, when it comes to Texas, you've got Adolis Garcia, Josh Young, a combined 25 home runs out of both of these gentlemen, and you've got so many guys that they do such a good job of being able to just get on base. Travis Jankowski, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Ezekiel Duran, Leody Taveras, all hitting at least at 298. All but one of these players, and Duran, have been able to give you at least a 368 on base as well. Jonah Heim, Nate Lowe, these are guys in between about a 270 to 280. There's just no breaks in this lineup. Meanwhile, for the Detroit Tigers, we were talking about with Dan Leach, been a little bit smoke and mirrors with this team. I really like what Riley Green is doing. He's been able to provide a 363 on base, and over the last 3 days, this man is sitting for a 427 on base. So, he has been absolutely tremendous for this team, and they're starting to draw a few more walks than they need to, because it's a Detroit Tigers bunch that they're one of the bottom teams in the big leagues in terms of both runs per game and also batting average, as they're currently 27th in the league in terms of runs per game. You're not going to get a lot of pop, as they're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of home runs, and for the Detroit Tigers, 27th in the big leagues in terms of batting average as well. So leaving a lot to be desired there. You don't have a single player with north of 5 home runs, by the way, as Riley Green along with Jason Rogers, Nick Maton, they are all guys that are there, but for Maton and Rogers, both of these guys hitting below a $175 at this point. Avi Baez, Spencer Torkelson, they're stuck on hitting about a 230. It's been really the two Zachs. Zach McKinstry, Zach Short, give me north of a 380 on base, with Akil Baddoo being able to give you a little bit of something, but what has really been the saving grace for the Detroit Tigers thus far this season is the bullpen, as you've had Alex Lang, Jason Foley both be able to supply a sub-250 ERA. Jose Cicero has been able to do a solid job as well. Now, when you get into the likes of a Tyler Alexander and company, it's not necessarily the world's greatest, but I do like what I've seen out of the Tigers bullpen. They're currently ranked 14th in the big leagues in terms of ERA, and that's the one thing where the Texas Rangers does go wrong. They are currently 26th in the big leagues overall for the season in terms of their bullpen ERA. They are dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA over the last 30 days. Over the last 30 days, a 6.58 bullpen ERA. Jonathan Hernandez has that north of a 5 ERA. Cole Reagan, same for him. Brock Burke has become a little bit unreliable. They're looking to get Joe Barlow back to the fold, but he's struggled a little bit since being able to return as well, which is why I do like this total over. When it comes to these two starters, you've got someone in Alex Faedo who's been able to do a nice job in terms of command. 1 walk in 21 and 2/3 innings. He's been able to get about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he does allow quite a bit of hard contact, but to his credit, he's been able to hold down the fort. He has given up either 2 or 3 runs in every one of his starts thus far this season. Now, he's given up a lot of hard contact, giving up 6 home runs in his 4 starts, but at the same time, if the run support was there for him a little bit more, as there has been a combined 9 runs of support for him in the last 3 games, things might be a little bit more rosy on that front. Meanwhile, for Martin Perez, it's not like he's necessarily been too sharp. 3.83 ERA overall for the season, but that's a 5.04 in his last 5 starts. Last 5 starts, opponents starting at 300 off of him, and for Perez, to his credit, he's been able to work on the walks a little bit thus far this season, as he's given up about 2.5 walks per 9 innings. That's key for him, but he has given up all 8 of his home runs on the road. Fortunately for him, Detroit, a pitcher-friendly ballpark, and he's not necessarily going up against a menacing lineup. So it's a spot where I'm going to be willing to ride with the run line of the Rangers, getting this plus price set the minus 154 on the money line, and here on an 8.5. Looking at the over 913, 914 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles play the Cleveland Guardians. Cal Quantrill goes for the Cleveland Guardians, and it is Kyle Gibson on the bump for Baltimore. Baltimore between a minus 133 to a minus 146 favorite, anywhere between plus 120 and plus 126 the number on Cleveland. 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8.5 unders minus 120, the overs even. On the 8 overs between minus 110 to a minus 115. The unders any between minus 105 to a minus 110. Was willing to take the Guardians at plus 120 or greater. For the Cleveland Guardians, they have lost each of Cal Quantrill's last 2 starts, but that still puts them at 22-5 in Cal Quantrill's last 27 regular season starts. And for Cal Quantrill, he's not going to go out there and do anything just super duper amazing or anything like that, but he just holds down the fort. In his last 9 starts, he has given up 3 runs or fewer in 7 of them. His strikeouts per 9 rate is one of the most deplorable in the big league, says he's getting right around 5.5 to 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He gives up about 3 walks per 9 innings. He gives up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but he's been better on the road than he has been at home. 6.04 home ERA, 3.64 ERA on the road. He has given up quite a few bombs on the road, 5 home runs in 29 and 2/3 innings, but the command has been relatively solid. He's been able to do an okay job of being able to hold down the fort, and he goes against someone in Kyle Gibson that it's not like he's necessarily lighting up the radar gun himself. As for Kyle Gibson, he's getting right around 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. Done a good job of being able to limit the hard contact. The dimensions at Camden Yards have really helped him out, giving up 2 home runs in 23 and 2/3 innings at home thus far this season. 3.04 home ERA compared to a 4.25 ERA on the road. But with both of these teams, they're both backed up by absolutely amazing bullpens. As for the Baltimore Orioles, they entered into this series number 4 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. The Cleveland Guardians, they are currently number 2. As for Cleveland, you've got Emmanuel Clase, who struggled a little bit at the closer spot, but Xavier Curry has been a good long reliever. Trevin Steven, Eli Morgan, and Yelde Los Santos, all these guys give me a sub-3.3 ERA. It has been impressive. Then Ynier Cano along with Felix Bautista. Both of these guys have been amazing as well. Sub-150 ERA out of both of these guys. Brian Baker, Mike Bauman, Danny Colombi, I'll give you a sub-3.6 ERA. They've been able to hold down the fort as well. So, Perez has rounded in a format for the Orioles. Just a really good, versatile offense. You don't necessarily have one guy that's going to strike fear in you. You've got Ryan Mountcastle, who's been able to give you 8 home runs, but Austin Hayes, Anthony Santander, Cedric Mullins, Adley Rushman, Adam Frazier. All of these guys between 6 and 8 home runs. And really all these guys, aside from Adam Frazier, have been able to give you at least a 350 on base. Rushman being the top guy with more like a 400 on base. So they do a good job of just finding a way on base. Cedric Mullins along with Jorge Mateo, a combined 28 stolen bases. So they're just versatile. And for the Cleveland Guardians, this team is dead last in the league in terms of runs per game, as they just don't have any power. 30 home runs thus far this season. That is by far last, as Josh Chandler has given you 7, Jose Ramirez 6, nobody else more than 3. And the reason why the Guardians have struggled so much with their offense is because they're just not getting on base the way that they did last season, because even last year, they were second worst of the big leagues in terms of home runs per game, but you had so many guys hitting at least a 270 for this team, like Will Brandon, Andres Jimenez, Ahmed Rosario, guys like this. They were all able to hit at least a 270. None of these guys are hitting above a 240 right now. Stephen Kwan has been able to give you 350 on base along with Jose Ramirez, both hitting between about a 262 to a 272. That's about it. So it's been a little bit of an issue, but I do think that for the Guardians, they're going to be able to grind out a little bit of a lower scoring game. I did set my total at 8.3. I think that they're going to be able to get to Kyle Gibson a little bit here. And I do think that the Orioles do get to Cal Quantrill before the bullpens really hold it down. So here at an 8, I'm going to be willing to take a look at the over, but being able to get plus 120 or greater, going to be able to ride with the Guardians to go along with that 8 over. 9:15, 9:16 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins hit the red face-off against the Houston Astros. Brandon Belock is going to be going for the Astros, and Joe Ryan is on the bump for Minnesota. Minnesota is a favorite of anywhere between minus 126 to minus 121, between plus 105 and plus 115, your number on Houston. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8 over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115 on the 8.5. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. And when it comes to the Astros, I needed at least a plus 116 to be able to take a shot on them, willing to lay up to a minus 116 on Minnesota. And if you're taking a look at that run line, getting it anywhere between plus 125 to a plus 135. Honestly, at this number, I would rather get a run and a half and lay minus 145 with Houston, because I am not convinced that the Minnesota Twins are going to be able to win this game by multiple runs. I would rather just see this go up by like a few cents. That way I'm getting north of a plus 116 to be able to ride with that money line, and I do think that we're going to be able to get there when it's all said and done. But at the current numbers that are available for me right now, and I'm in wait and see mode, I'd be willing to take a run and a half with the Houston Astros, because with the Houston Astros, they might have Brandon Belock get lit up a little bit, as he's a young guy that has been thrusted into a starting role, and he hasn't done a bad job in the starting role. At the same time, he does leave a little bit of something to be desired. A 3.55 ERA, strikeouts per 9 rate is hovering right around 8. Doesn't necessarily give out a lot of walks, about 3 walks per 9 innings, but the 6 home runs in 25 and a third innings, that's an issue. Going up against the Minnesota Twins team that the one thing that they have been able to do on offense has been able to belt home runs. They are dead last in the American League in terms of batting average on the road, but you do have a pair of guys in Joey Gallo, Aaron Buxton, who have a double-digit amount of homers thus far this season for Minnesota. They are currently 7th in the big leagues in terms of home runs per game. They are dealing with quite a few of the guys that are able to move the line, as Kyle Farmer has just gotten back to the fold. He's hitting about a 270 along Donovan Solano, but they've been dealing with that injury to Ore Polanco. He's been able to about a 280 for this team, and they just now got back Royce Lewis, who I do think is going to be an impact guy for this team, but got a lot of guys that they just need to find a way to be able to get on base, like Byron Buxton, Christian Vasquez, Eduardo Julian, Carlos Correa, Michael A. Taylor, all these guys in a 226 or lower. That has been a big issue for this team. Meanwhile, for the Minnesota Twins, they've done a solid job with their bullpen. Yohan Duran has been just rock solid all season long. Jorge Lopez has been acting up a little bit recently, but for by and large, for the Minnesota Twins, 9th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. The Astros last year, though, they were number 1 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. This year, they are number 3, while guys like Giovanni Moore and company have been a little bit up and down. For the Twins, are starting to round into form. Brock Stewart, by the way, for the Minnesota Twins, has yet to give up an earned run this season. For the Astros, been a little bit more rock solid. You have seen Rafael Montero be absolutely terrible thus far this season, but you've got a trio of guys in Phil Maton, Brian Abreu, and Hector Neris that all have a sub-2 ERA. Ryan Presley, after a little bit of a shaky start to the season, he's been able to rise up as well. And for the Houston Astros, they got exactly what the doctor ordered for this offense. A dosing of the Oakwood A's to be able to get right back online, as Alex Bregman has had a little bit of a shaky start to the season, but back up to a 332 in terms of his on-base percentage. Jeremy Pena has had a home run in 2 out of his last 4 games. Jordan Alvarez, 14 bombs, nearly a 400 on base. Mauricio Dubon is moving the line at hitting about a 295. And Jose Altuve, since he's returned, small sample size, hitting about a 355. So I do think that the Houston Astros starting to lend a little bit of value. At the current numbers, I'd be looking to take a run and a half at more of that minus 145 juice. I'm thinking that we should be able to get more around a plus 118 to a plus 120 when it's all said and done. That's when we'll be looking at on the Houston Astros, as I do think that Joe Ryan going to be able to land a good start for the Minnesota Twins. 2.21 ERA thus far this season, as his strikeout numbers have been great, right around 10 punch-outs per 9 innings, giving up 4 home runs in 61 innings, and he's really reduced the walks, as he's given up in terms of a walks per 9 rate right around about 1.5. On the road, he's been equally as good as at home, 2.25 home ERA compared to a 2.19 road ERA, but I do think that the Houston Astros have a little bit of an edge when it comes to their bullpen as well. Did semi-total at 8.3. I think that we're going to see a little bit of regression moving forward for Joe Ryan. I do like the way that the Astros are rising up with the bats, so going to be taking a look at the Astros on the money line in all likelihood, and this is a spot where I'm going to be taking a look at the 8 over as well. 917, 918 is going to be the DK Nation write-up pick, as we've got the LA Angels hitting the road face-off against the Chicago White Sox. Lucas Giolito goes for the White Sox. Tyler Anderson is on the bump for the Angels. 8.5 is the total. The over and the under are anywhere between even money and minus 120. So shop around there for the White Sox. Anywhere between minus 130 to minus 140 favorites. Anywhere between plus 115 and plus 122 is your number on the LA Angels. And the DK Nation write-up pick yesterday was on the Angels money line. The DK Nation write-up pick today is on the Angels money line. It's not like I script this out or anything like that. I just go with what the board offers, and I set the LA Angels as a favorite. I think that this might just be a mispriced series. I set the Angels at a minus 108. I recognize that Tyler Anderson has not necessarily been lighting the world on fire after he was giving up just 1.7 walks per 9 innings, about a 2.55 ERA last season with the LA Dodgers. That's risen well north of a 4 ERA thus far this season, and his walks per 9 rate up to a 4.3, but he's been able to stem the tide and has looked much better recently, as he has faced off against, in 4 out of his last 5 starts, teams above 500, and he's given up 3 runs or fewer in every one of them, and he's been able to help the LA Angels get to victory. They are 6-3 in his starts thus far this season. Meanwhile, for Lucas Giolito, the Chicago White Sox are 3-8 in his starts, and he has been just a disaster throughout his entire career in Chicago. A career 4.80 home ERA compared to a 3.81 ERA on the road, giving up just below 1.2 home runs per 9 innings when he's on the road, more than 1.5 home runs per 9 innings when he's at home. And for Lucas Giolito, he has been very consistent in that he has given up approximately 1 home run in each out of his last 5 starts. Now, I will say for Lucas Giolito, it's been a little bit better here in the month of May rather than in the month of April. 4.15 ERA in April, 3.77 here in May, but coming off of a start where he gave up 7 walks in 3 2/3 innings against the Detroit Tigers after it looked like he had found his command. Not so great. Now, heartwarming story for the Chicago White Sox. They bring back up Liam Hendriks. He has overcome cancer. Very good story, and it's much needed for a bullpen that's currently second worst in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Garrett Crochet is back to the fold, but they've been using him quite a bit with 40-plus pitches being thrown on Sunday, and then you've got a bunch of schlubs out there. Aaron Bummer, Reynaldo Lopez, guys like this, posting up north of a 5 ERA. Joe Kelly is completely untrustworthy as well, and for the LA Angels, I mean, do I think that they're going to be 9th in terms of bullpen ERA when this season is all said and done? No, but they're currently 9th in terms of bullpen ERA right now, and you've been able to get some good innings out of the likes of a Matt Moore, Carlos Estevez, Chris Stavinsky, all giving you a sub-3 ERA for Moore, and Estevez a sub-1.50 ERA themselves, as Andrew Wantz has been relatively solid in this bullpen as well. And the LA Angels, they're just much better at being able to move the line. For the White Sox, they're right around about 21st, 22nd in the league in terms of batting average, but they're just 29th in terms of on base because they have the lowest walk rate of any team in the big leagues. You do have Luis Robert along Jake Berger that entered in the series and combined 23 home runs. Both of these guys have been able to hit for a relatively solid average. Both of these guys in between about a 250 to 260 along with Eloy Jimenez, Gavin Sheets. You're able to throw in there the backup catcher and Carlos Perez as well, all in that full, but really none of these guys giving you north of a 333 on base. You've got Andrew Benintendi or Makata being able to hit about a 272, 280 once again. Neither of these guys north of a 335 on base. And for the LA Angels, got a trio of guys that will be able to give you between 10 and 12 home runs thus far this season. Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, along with Hunter Renfroe. And when it comes to Trout and Ohtani, both of these guys have been able to do a solid job, being able to do a good job of being able to give you about a 345 to a 355 on base, hitting above a 270 as well. You've also got in the full Gio Urshela sitting above a 300. Zach Neto over the last 3 days has been able to about a 275. Mickey Moniak is hitting above a 300 at the leadoff spot as well. So I do think that for the LA Angels, they are going to be able to get enough out of Tyler Anderson in the spot and be able to take advantage of the struggles of Lucas Giolito to get this one to the window. I did set my total at 8.8. Lucas Giolito has been a little bit better here in this month, but I'm still willing to go over because this White Sox bullpen is atrocious, and right a pick that is on the Angels money line. I feel like they should be the favorite, and we're getting plus money on them once again. 919, 920 on the betting board. It is the New York Yankees, and the road face-off against the Seattle Mariners. Logan Gilbert goes for the Mariners. Nestor Cortez is on the bump for the Yankees, and the Yankees are underdogs of anywhere between plus 105 to plus 118. Meanwhile, you're getting anywhere between minus 120 to minus 138 on Seattle. 7.5 is the total. The under is between minus 120 to a minus 110. The over that is anywhere between even and minus 110. And for the Yankees, need at least a plus 127 to take a shot on them. Mostly seeing between minus 120 to a minus 125 on the Mariners, and that is acceptable to take a shot on them. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 126 on Seattle, as Logan Gilbert has been pretty stinking good thus far this season. As for Gilbert, the 3.60 ERA, in my opinion, is just unwarranted because with Logan Gilbert, he's doing a good job of being able to get swings and misses. He's doing a good job of holding down the fort, not getting a lot of walks. He's just been really unlucky on balls in play. As for Logan Gilbert, his fielding independent is hovering right around 279. 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.5 walks per 9 innings, less than a home run per 9 innings as well, but just been a case where the contact that has been made against him has just really gone against him. And for Nestor Cortez, I do think that he's going to be able to do a little bit of a better job moving forward as well. He actually began his career with the Seattle Mariners as well, so a little bit of a revenge spot here for him, as Cortez a 5.30 ERA but a 4.78 fielding independent. He's been victimized by hurt contact, giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, still getting right around 9 punch-outs per 9 innings. And for Nestor Cortez, has looked a little bit better recently, giving up 2 runs or fewer in 2 out of his last 4 starts. Granted, won them game against the Oakland A's, so there is that aspect of it, but I mean, it's just been all about the home runs. He's given up 7 home runs over the course of his last 5 starts, have been doomsday for him. Good news for Nestor Cortez is that he is backed up by a New York Yankees bullpen that's currently number 1 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. I do think that Ian Hamilton injury is going to be catching up with him a little bit, and Ron Marinaccio, he's been a little bit up and down, but Wandy Peralta, Michael King, both being able to supply a 2.50 or better ERA has been solid. Jimmy Cordero, he's been a little bit up and down this season, but he's been able to give you some good innings after Albert Abreu had a rough go of it about 3 weeks ago. He's been able to rise up as well. And then for the Seattle Mariners, this team is always very good with their bullpen, and it's really been mixing and matching, as Andres Munoz, along with a few other guys from the bullpen last season, like Penn Murphy and company, have been out of the fold due to injury. They got rid of Eric Swanson in the offseason, and yet they just continue to reload. They're number 5 in terms of bullpen ERA, with the likes of Trevor Gott, Taylor Saucedo, Gabe Spire being able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Justin Topa has been a little bit up and down, but I mean, these guys have been able to do a good job of being able to stem the tide. Now, with the Seattle Mariners, just been a case where this team doesn't do a great job of being able to move the line and hit for average. This is a team that they do have quite a bit of power, and Eugenio Suarez seems to be picking it up a little bit. And I mean, for Julio Rodriguez, it was a really rough start to the season for him. He's hit above a 300 over the last 3 or so weeks, so that is very good to find. But you still have a lot of guys like Tom Murphy, Suarez, who I mentioned a little bit before, AJ Pollock, Sam Haggerty, Taylor Tamrill, that are all hitting a 220 or lower for this bunch. You do have a young infielder in Jose Calabreo, who's been able to give you about a 375 on base. He has been terrific for this team. And Ty France had a multi-home run game against the Oakland A's, so feels like they're starting to right the ship a little bit. And I do think that they're going to provide just enough support to be able to get Logan Gilbert to the window. Did set my total at 7.7 with the way that Nestor Cortez has been giving up hard contact, and I do think we're going to see a little bit of regression to this Seattle and New York bullpen respectively. I'm willing to go over, and with the Mariners, willing to lay the minus 120 to minus 125 I'm seeing on them. 921, 922 on the betting board. The Toronto Blue Jays play out to the Milwaukee Brewers. Adrian Don't Call Him Doogie Howser goes for the Brewers, and Yusei Kikuchi is on the bump for Toronto, and Toronto is a favorite of anywhere between minus 154 to minus 170, between plus 132 and plus 145. Your number on the Brew Crew. 9.5 is the total. The over and the under are anywhere between minus 105 to minus 115, and with the Crew, I needed at least a plus 184 to take a shot on them. If you're looking at the run line of the Blue Jays, find that anywhere between plus 115 and plus 120, and I was willing to take even money or better, so I'm going to be willing to take it with Yusei Kikuchi. Adrian Hauser has always been a pitch to contact guy, and I always have my concerns on that front with a guy like Adrian Hauser. Meanwhile, for Yusei Kikuchi, after he was just terrible last season, he's been a tad bit better this year. I'm not saying he's lighting the world on fire, and his fielding independent is north of a 5.5, so that's a little bit of an issue as he has been giving up 2.5 home runs per 9 innings, but he's really worked on the walks. After last year, he was getting about 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but over 5 walks per 9 innings. He's reversed that, more around 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings this year, but 2.5 walks per 9 innings, and I feel like it's been very beneficial for him, and now they get to go up against a Milwaukee Brewers team that's dead last in the National League in terms of runs per game. For the Milwaukee Brewers, just not a lot of guys are able to move the line for you, as they've got quite a few guys with an on-base percentage that hovers right around, we're going to call it about a 332 to a 350. Darren Ruff, William Contreras, Christian Yelich, Brian Anderson, Rowdy Tellez are all in that fold. Pretty much all these guys sit between about a 244 to 255. Tellez has been able to give you 12 home runs thus far this season. Brian Anderson has been able to supply 8, but now you've got William Thomas dealing with the injury. He took that line drive in the weekend series against the San Francisco Giants, so that's not great. Guys like Bryce Harang, Joey Weimer, they just have not been able to give you competitive at-bats. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, things have went straight down the toilet bowl for their bullpen. Oh, I wonder if what they could do if they had a guy by the name of Josh Hader in there, but that's a story for another day. 27th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA over the last 30 days overall for the season. The Milwaukee Brewers, they're hovering in the neighborhood of 19th, but Devin Williams has been terrific. Elvis Peguero and Joel Payamps have been solid as well. Both of these guys supplying a sub-325 ERA, but when you get into Trevor McGill, Peter Strzelecki has been a little bit up and down. You just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of some of these guys. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, they've been right around 13th of the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Yimi Garcia, Anthony Bass have been rough for this team, but Eric Swanson, Tim Mesa, sub-2 ERAs. Jordan Romano has been a little bit of a roll of the dice, but I do like what he's able to provide overall. And for the Blue Jays, you know that this lineup is better than how they've performed thus far this season, as they're right around league average in terms of home runs, and I'm just waiting for them to be able to bust out as Dalton Varsho, Vlad Guerrero Jr., George Springer, Matt Chapman, all stuck on between 7 and 8 home runs. Varsho, I mean, the 8 home runs, that's relatively what you expect. The other guys, you expect a little bit of a rise up as Guerrero, Chapman, Bo Bichette, all at least a 350 on base, all hitting at least a 284. And George Springer, he's been able to get out of his funk as well. Not necessarily hitting for a ton of power, but for George Springer over the last 15 days, he's hitting about a 362. And over the last 3 days, more around a 300 as well. So I like seeing that. Kevin Kiermaier has been able to do a good job of being able to move the line, though he's been dealing with a little bit of a back issue. Brandon Belt, though, he's hitting north of a 325 over the last 3 days as well. So that's been big for the bottom of the fold. You're just waiting for these home runs to come in for Adrian Hauser. Currently at 225 ERA. Don't think that it's sustainable, as he's gotten 14 punch-outs in 20 innings thus far this season now. Has been able to do a much better job with the walks, but he's been getting very lucky on balls in play, and I think that luck is going to run out against the Toronto Blue Jays. I did set this total at a 9.7, so here at a 9.5, I'm going to be willing to take a look at the over, being able to get a plus price on this run line of the Blue Jays as well. Willing to ride with that as well. 923, 924 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds, yes, we are on to Cincinnati. They hit the road face-off against the Boston Red Sox. Brian Bayo is going to be going for the Sox, and Ben Lively is on the bump for Cincinnati. The Reds are underdogs of any between plus 155 to a plus 162. Meanwhile, any between minus 180 to minus 190 is your price on Boston. 9.5 to 10 is the total on the 10. Under is minus 115 to minus 120. The over is between even to minus 105 on the 9.5. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And if you're looking at that Sox run line, you're going to be finding it right around even money. I was willing to go up to a minus 108 on this run line. I'm going to be willing to trust in them. With Brian Bayo, he's been a little bit unlucky throughout his MLB career, as he's done a pretty solid job being able to get some swings and misses as for his career last year and this year, right around 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's got a career 4.47 ERA compared to a 3.71 fielding independent. Now, fielding independent is a little bit higher than his ERA thus far this season, but he's been able to work on the walks after he got 4 walks per 9 innings last season, more like 3 walks per 9 innings thus far this season, and gets to go up against a Cincinnati Reds team that has pretty breadth of power. The Cincinnati Reds are in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of home runs. You've only got one guy that's been able to give you north of 5 home runs. That'd be Spencer Steer, who's been solid. He's been able to give you 7 home runs, and he's part of a bunch of guys that have been able to between about a 275 to a 290. Jonathan India, Steer, along with Kevin Newman, all in that fold. And then you do have quite a few guys like Jake Fraley, Luke Melee, Stuart Fairchild, Tyler Stevenson, hanging in that pocket about 250 to a 255, but just not a lot of power there for the Reds, and I'll give a little bit of credit where credit is due. Matt McClain, since he's gotten called up, hitting like a 380, so that has been tremendous. Don't think that's necessarily sustainable, and for the Reds, they do have, honestly, a relatively solid bullpen as well. You've got Fernando Cruz back to the fold, Ian Alexis Diaz, both had a sub-2 ERA last season. Thus far this season, they've been able to do a good job as well. Buck Farmer, Ian Gabo, these guys have been able to give you some good innings as well as overall. Cincinnati Reds are 10th of the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Boston Red Sox are 11th. I don't think that that's sustainable. You take a look at the xFIP, and they are doing for quite a bit of regression, especially when you've got someone like a John Schreiber out of the fold, though Josh Winkowski has been very good as a long guy. Kenley Jansen, not trustworthy as a closer in my opinion, but Justin Garza, Yuli Rodriguez, they're not necessarily too terrific, but I do think that they're going to be able to get to Ben Lively. Ben Lively currently has a 2.65 ERA. He's getting about 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings at the minor league level. He's gotten 18 strikeouts in a very small 17-inning sample size thus far this season. I am waiting for the bottom to fall out on him. He's given up 3 home runs in 17 innings thus far. I do think that he's going to be able to continue to do a good job with his command, but I mean, he wasn't even necessarily that good when he was with the Samsung Lions and the KBO, and now he's to face off against the Boston Red Sox team that they hit so differently at home rather than on the road, and I think that that is something that really needs to be highlighted with this Boston Red Sox team, as with the Red Sox, they're averaging 6 runs per game at home. Only the Texas Rangers average more like 4.3 runs per game on the road, and their batting average fluctuates by about 40 points home to road. Rafael Devers has been able to give you 13 home runs thus far this season, and no other guy really gives you north of 6 home runs for this Boston Red Sox team, but just have a bunch of guys that they do a good job of being able to get on base, as you got Justin Turner, Masataka Yoshida, Alex Verdugo. I'll give you at least a 355 on base. Rob Epsteiner, a 415 on base. Pablo Reyes has been able to about 275. Reese McGuire is hitting at 280. You just go down the list. I do think that the Red Sox are going to be able to get to Ben Lively. I think that after Lively was living the dream the last few starts, now is when reality sets in. Something I told at 9.8. Here at a 10, I'm going to be willing to take a look at the under, as I do think that maybe both of these guys are being overlooked just a tad. But with the Red Sox, I do think that they get to Lively in this spot. We'll take that Red Sox even money run line, and I'm going to be taking a look at this 10 under 925, 926 on the main board. The Kansas City Royals at the road face-off against the St. Louis Cardinals. Miles Mikolas goes for the Cards, and you've got Zach Greinke on the bump for Kansas City. The Royals are underdogs, varying between plus 155 and plus 166. Meanwhile, and between minus 180 to minus 186 is your number on the Cardinals. 9 is the total. The over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And if you're looking at their run line price, plus 105 on St. Louis, and is willing to go up to a minus 110. With Zach Greinke, he's got very demonstrative home and road splits. As for Zach Greinke, since he has returned to Kansas City, he's given up about 0.35 home runs per 9 innings when he's at home. 2 home runs per 9 innings when he's on the road. 3 ERA at home thus far this season. 6.66 ERA on the road. He either needs to give up a run or he needs to pitch a scoreless inning, because he just needs to get off of 6.66 in any way. Sure, he performed, but I mean, that said, he has been getting shelled very much on the road. Swing and miss stuff is just donezo for Zach Greinke. He's only been able to get about 6.5 to 7 strikeouts per 9 innings thus far this season. It's not like Miles Mikolas necessarily gets a lot of swings and misses as well. He's hovering right around about 7 punch-outs per 9 innings, but after an incredibly rough start to the season for Miles Mikolas, last 5 starts has been solid. 2.40 ERA in that time span, giving up 2 home runs in 30 innings, and now he gets the gift of going up against the Kansas City Royals team that they just don't have anyone at the bottom of the fold that are able to hit. Now, they were able to get an amazing pitching performance yesterday. I don't think lightning is going to strike twice. As for the Royals, you do have 3 guys: Vinny Pasquantino, Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez. They'll be able to go yard. Pasquantino, 9 bombs, 340 on base. Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, a combined 22 home runs between the two of them, but for Bobby Witt Jr., only about a 270 on base for him, and then you got a lot of guys at the bottom of the fold like Freddie Furman, MJ Melendez, Hunter Dozier, Nate Eaton, Jackie Bradley Jr., all hitting at 225 or lower. That is a big, giant issue. You've been able to get a little bit of something thus far this season out of the likes of Matt Duffy and company, who's starting to get a few more at-bats, so that's something that you do like to see. But the Royals, they are dead last currently in the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage. Meanwhile, you've got a St. Louis Cardinals team that they do such a better job at home rather than on the road with their bats. That didn't necessarily show through yesterday, but they've been able to give you about 5.8 runs per game at home thus far this season. Meanwhile, on the road, that's more like 4.1. You've got Paul Goldschmidt, who's been able to give you nearly a 4 on base. Power numbers a little bit down this year. You expect a little bit more than 10 home runs out of him, but Nolan Arenado had that string where he had pretty much 6 home runs in 8 games. That's been able to get him back online. Nolan Gorman has about a 370 on base, 13 home runs. The outfield in general has been a little bit banged up with Tyler O'Neill and company deal with injuries. Jordan Walker somehow, somebody got sent down to the minors. I have no idea why they did that, but they did. Alec Burleson has been a little bit up and down, but for the St. Louis Cardinals, bullpen has been a little bit better. Ryan Helsley blew his save over the weekend, but he's looked a little bit more like his good form from last season. You've had Genesis Cabrera be able to give you some solid innings. Giovanni Gallegos has been able to supply a sub-3 ERA. And for the Kansas City Royals, I will say, over the last 3 days, this has not been a terrible bullpen, as for the Kansas City Royals in this time span, they've been more around like 19th, 20th in terms of bullpen ERA. Aroldis Chapman has been able to supply a sub-3.3 ERA. Scott Barlow over the last 3 days, sub-3 ERA as well. So these guys are rounding into form. Taylor Clark along with Jose Cuas, not necessarily too terrific, but I do think that the Cardinals are going to be able to light our good friend Zach Greinke ablaze. I do think that Miles Mikolas is going to be pitching to quite a bit of contact, so I did set my total at 9.2, looking at the over, and with the St. Louis Cardinals being able to get plus money on that run line, going to be one to place a wager on that as well. 927, 928 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays, they are on the road facing off against the Chicago Cubs as Kyle Hendricks, the professor, goes for the Cubs, and Shane McClanahan is on the bump for the Tampa Bay Rays. We're seeing initial opening totals of an 8.5, overs between minus 110 to a minus 120, understanding between even a minus 110, and with the Rays, between minus 185 to minus 195 is the price there, and between plus 155 to plus 173 is your number on the Chicago Cubs. Currently, there is no run line price available as I do this, but I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 118 on the Rays run line. I set the minus 184 on the money line, and did set my total at 8.3. It's going to be a relatively neutral wind in this one. I don't think that it's going to have a whole lot of effect to the positive or the negative, sort of a directional wind that at most is going to be going about 5 to 7 miles per hour. Heck, towards the end of the game, it might be down to like 2 to 3 miles per hour. So very calm conditions in this one. And for Shane McClanahan, this guy's been absolutely dealing. He was the American League All-Star starter last season, and he's really been the most reliable guy for a Tampa Bay Rays team that's 29th in terms of bullpen ERA over the last 30 days. It's not been good. Guys like Colin Boucher, Jason Adam, they just have been completely overworked, and Shane McClanahan needs to go out there and be able to lend some length, and he's been able to do so recently, as he's been able to give the team at least 6 innings, and now 4 out of his last 5 starts, and want to date it back a little bit further, 7 out of his last 10 in this time span. He has given up 2 runs or fewer in all but one of his starts, actually for the entirety of the season. Shane McClanahan has been on point. .97 ERA, that does go to more of like a 3 on the road, but overall, giving up about 0.85 home runs per 9 innings. The walks are a little bit high, a little bit north of 3 walks per 9 innings, but getting about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Going up against Kyle Hendricks, who really didn't look good in his rehab appearances thus far this season. He's made 1 start, gave up 5 runs, 3 of which were earned against the New York Mets. And for the professor, he's always been so much better at home rather than on the road. We saw a reversal of that really the last 2 years. Last year he had a higher home ERA than he did a road ERA, and he did in 2021 as well. So for the professor, he pitches a contact. He does an okay job of not allowing a lot of walks, but he hasn't been good at home recently, and that was the one thing that he had going for him. And this is a Cubs bullpen that has been just a complete and utter nightmare all season long, as currently they're dealing with a little bit of an injury to Brad Boxberger. Michael Fulmer has north of a 7 ERA. Now, Michael Leiter Jr. has actually been really good, a sub-2 ERA, but Javier Assad is up to a 5 ERA. Michael Rucker is up above a 5 ERA. The Cubs now own the worst bullpen ERA in the National League. Now, the Rays have their deficiencies as well, and I do think that we're going to see a little bit of regression to the Tampa Bay Rays, as they're over 100 home runs already thus far this season. They were like 25th in the league in terms of home runs last season, but I do like what you're able to get out of Randy Arozarena, Yandy Diaz, along Josh Lowe, all hitting at least a 296, all been able to supply at least 11 home runs thus far this season. Then you've got so many guys that they just do a good job of being able to move the line, find a way on base. As you got Luke Raley, Taylor Walls, Isaac Paredes, Harold Ramirez, Wander Franco, all between about a 344 to a 360 on base, all with at least 7 home runs. And then for the Chicago Cubs, they're a top 3 team in the National League in terms of batting average and on base percentage. You've been having really Patrick Wisdom be the boom guy for the team. 14 home runs thus far this season. Christopher Morel starting to regress a little bit, but still 9 home runs at a 300 batting average in his first 67 at-bats. You're going to take that all day long, and you got quite a few guys for the Cubs are in between about a 270 to a 280, as Yan Gomes, Dansby Swanson, Ian Happ, C.A. Suzuki, Cody Bellinger are all in that fold. Now, Cody Bellinger, it looks like he's going to be hitting the injured list. Figured he'd be out for this one, but that's a little bit of an issue for the team. But by and large, been able to get guys on base. But now that they have to go up against Shane McClanahan, I do think that that's going to be a little bit of an issue. Currently don't have run lines available to me, but I'm willing to lay up to a minus 118 on that Tampa Bay Rays run line. Did set my total at an 8.3, so also going to be taking a look at the under, and we wrap things up with 929, 930 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves hit the road to face off against the Oakland AAAs. JP Sears goes for the A's, and got Bryce Elder on the bump for Atlanta. And Atlanta between minus 230 to minus 260 favorites, between plus 195 to plus 212 is your number on Oakland. And for Oakland, I would need at least a plus 246 to be able to take a shot. If you're looking at the run line, you're finding it at a minus 135 for the Atlanta Braves. Good price. I was willing to lay up to a minus 150 on this one with Bryce Elder. He's currently the ERA leader in the National League at a 2.01. I think we're going to see a little bit of regression with Bryce Elder, but again, I don't think we're going to see regression in this start. I think it's going to be coming after this. He's got a $1.93 road ERA, 2.06 home ERA. He gets a pitch in a pitcher-friendly ballpark, and has yet to give up a home run on the road this far this season. And what Bryce Elder has done is he's just limited self-inflicted wounds, about 2.6 walks per 9 innings. He's getting about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's not lighting the world on fire. He's not lighting up the radar gun. He's just doing a good job of going out there and throwing strikes. Meanwhile, for JP Sears, he's honestly pitched really well. 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts. The problem is the team has lost every one of them because they're unable to provide him with any run support whatsoever. 3 runs or fewer scored by his team in every one of these starts. So, they've completely lit that on fire. For JP Sears, he's honestly pitched really well at home. 2.86 home ERA in his 4 home starts. He has given up 4 home runs, but he's only given up 4 walks as well. He's done a good job with his command overall for the season. Fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, 9 punch-outs per 9 innings. I honestly don't have anything against JP Sears. He's one of the saving graces of this Oakland A's team, but behind him, he's got a bunch of clowns coming out of the bullpen. You've had Richard Lovelady be able to give you a sub-3 ERA. That's something that's relatively solid for the team. But then you have a good down the list. Austin Pruitt has about a 4.50 ERA. Sam Maul, same for him. And then Shotaro Fujinami, a 10 ERA. You just don't have anyone whatsoever that's able to hold down the fort. The Oakland A's bullpen ERA is about a full 1.5 worse than any other team in the big leagues. And the Atlanta Braves, they're pretty much league average in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've had a few guys like A.J. Minter and company that have not necessarily been so great. Michael Tonkin, right around about a 3.50 ERA. It's a little bit more of a long guy, but Jesse Chavez now has a sub-2 ERA. Whenever he's been out there, I've liked what I've seen out of Danny Young. I know that he's been a little bit up and down for this team in terms of AAA and at the big league level, but he's able to supply some good innings. Kirby Yates has rounded into form as well, but for the Oakland A's, now they have to go up against an Atlanta Braves team that entered in the series with, count them, 6 different guys with at least 10 home runs, including Sean Murphy, Ronald Acuna Jr. with north of a 400 on base. Austin Riley is getting hot at just the right time over the last 15 days. He's been able to give the team 4 home runs, hitting at .339 entering into this series. Got just a bunch of guys in general that are able to move the line as well. Matt Olson, along with his 16 home runs, 360 on base. Orlando Arcia, 375 on base. And then for the Oakland A's, they are dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, and they just can't hit at home. On the road, this is not like a great offense, but you know what? They're able to hit above a 235 or so. At home, entering into yesterday, a 209 batting average with 26 home runs in 28 games. Brent Rooker, 11 bombs. He's been able to give you about a 360 on base, but you got so many clowns towards the bottom of the fold. They DFA Jesus Aguilar, who was honestly one of their better hitters. So, it's clear that this team is in tank mode, but Ryan Noda, Seth Brown, along with Jace Peterson, Tony Kemp, all these guys, they're hitting at 210 or lower at home. Shea Langoliers has been able to give you a little bit of pop with 7 home runs, but hitting at 207 overall. This is just not a situation where you want to be going out and taking the Oakland A's. The only question is over or under in this spot. I semi-told it at 8.4. Personally, I would rather have an 8.5 under rather than an 8 over. This Oakland A's team has just not been able to hit at home thus far this season. And JP Sears, he's the one guy that's able to pitch for the Oakland A's other than Mason Miller is on the injured list. So looking at an 8.5 under and looking at a run line of the Atlanta Braves, and that will wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Dan Leach, who does great work here at VSiN. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we have fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at Junior_D1. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via the 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. That means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.